If arousal stops working the moment there's pressure, expectation, or evaluation, including erectile dysfunction that shows up under pressure, this is not random, and it isn't just you. Sexual response doesn't shut down because desire disappears. It shuts down because the brain detects pressure, and pressure changes your brain state. This very pattern shows up across what I call SAD, sexual arousal dysfunction, whether that's erectile dysfunction in men or shutdown, numbness, or inconsistent arousal in both men and women. Pressure doesn't motivate arousal, it shuts it down. This video is brought to you by my HarperCollins published book, Mind Over Explicit Matter. If you're ready to quit porn and reclaim your life mentally and physically, go over to drtrishleigh.com/book. So you probably wonder, why would the brain block something that it wants? Many of my clients assumed inconsistent arousal meant something was wrong with them. Not confident enough, not attracted enough, not relaxed enough. So you know what they did, right? They tried harder. They monitored more. They added more pressure. But what's actually happening is something that I call air in the brain, the arousal inhibition response. When the nervous system detects evaluation, outcome dependency, or subconscious threat, it doesn't amplify the response. It inhibits it. The nervous system doesn't respond to desire in the way that we think. It responds to subconscious safety signals, not what we think or believe. And when those signals drop, the body inhibits sexual response automatically. Now, it's important that you know air in the brain is not a psychological weakness. It's a biological, neurobiological braking system. Sexual response follows perceived safety, not conscious intention. You probably wonder, what makes the brain decide something isn't safe? When the brain detects performance, outcome dependence, or evaluation, it shifts into control mode. Control mode increases vigilance. Vigilance keeps the nervous system on red alert. Alert systems don't open arousal. This is the very reason why erectile dysfunction so often appears only in certain situations. Not everywhere, not always, but specifically under pressure. That's air in the brain in action. And it's the same mechanism behind many forms of SAD, sexual arousal dysfunction. When arousal disappears in moments that should feel intimate, but instead feel observed, measured, or evaluated. That's not weakness, even though I know it feels that way. That's neurobiology. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it was designed to do, to protect you. The problem isn't desire. The problem is that protection is staying on when it's no longer needed. Arousal shutdown isn't failure, it's learned protection. But if this is learned, can it be unlearned? Here's the shift that most people miss. You don't rewire arousal by chasing arousal. You don't fix SAD by trying harder, performing better, or forcing it. You cannot force the response. This is why erectile dysfunction improves naturally when regulation improves, not when performance is forced. Regulation comes first, response follows. When the nervous system exits high alert mode, prediction changes. The body no longer braces, and when the body isn't bracing, arousal becomes accessible again. Arousal follows regulation, not effort. But what actually teaches safety to the nervous system? Here's a brain hack strategy that rewires the conditioning created by constant evaluation, comparison, and performance that the algorithm is causing and explicit matter is reinforcing. This brain hack is called the no judgment exposure. Once per day, choose one short interaction, online or in real life, where you consciously remove judgment. No assessing, no ranking, no attraction scoring, no imagining how you're being perceived. Just staying present, no judgment. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? It is. If you're online, that means no swiping, no comparing, no consuming people as information, just noticing without deciding. If you're in person, it can be as simple as standing in line, passing someone on the street, or having a brief interaction where you stay present without evaluating yourself, what you're doing, or the other person at all. You're not trying to connect. You're not trying to be interesting. You're not trying to be chosen. This interrupts air in the brain. It teaches the nervous system that presence does not equal performance. When judgment drops, vigilance drops with it. If you're struggling with judgment, create self-awareness around it. See how often you are judging yourself or others. When regulation becomes familiar, life starts to feel quieter on the inside. Not numb, quieter, more peaceful. There's less background tension, less scanning, less self-checking. Desire doesn't feel urgent or fragile anymore. It feels steady, present, available. This is what happens when air in the brain softens and the nervous system no longer defaults to inhibition. Arousal feels responsive instead of unpredictable. You're not wondering whether it will happen or not. You're not tracking your body. You're not managing the moment. The signal for arousal moves when it's allowed to move, and you're no longer in the way of it. You stop monitoring yourself. You stop asking, is this working? You stop turning connection into a test. Presence, the experience, becomes easier. Eye contact doesn't feel loaded. Touch doesn't feel anticipatory anymore. Intimacy feels like participation, not performance. And sexual response stops feeling like something you have to think about because your nervous system isn't asking for proof of safety anymore. Nothing is being forced. Nothing is being watched. And that's why it works. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about letting your system return to its natural state. That's what neuroregulation is. As regulation starts to return, specific things are shifting in the brain. High alert patterns begin to settle. Vigilance begins to soften. The arousal inhibition response air quiets. For some people, small safety-based practices are enough to tip the system back into regulation. The brain recalibrates on its own once the pressure is removed. Arousal becomes accessible again because the nervous system remembers how to settle. But for others, unfortunately, the brain has been in high alert for a very long time. High beta activity stays elevated. When that happens, threat prediction remains dominant, even when the person consciously feels calm. In men, this is one of the most common brain state patterns that I see behind erectile dysfunction that doesn't respond to effort or reassurance. In men and women, this often shows up as SAD, sexual arousal dysfunction, inconsistent arousal, numbness, or delayed response that feels confusing and honestly identity threatening. Insight and behavioral changes help, but they don't always reach the level where the pattern is stored. That's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's because some nervous systems need much more direct feedback to learn what regulation feels like again. This is the role that my Regulate First Neuroregulation program plays in people's healing and recovery. Neuroregulation works at the level of brain state, of brain performance patterns. It gives the brain real-time information about its own activity so it can learn to reduce threat patterns and stabilize regulation without effort or forcing. As high alert patterns settle, bracing ends. And when bracing ends, arousal response can return on its own. If this is resonating and you're noticing that insight alone isn't enough to shift the pattern, that's a useful signal, my friend. It's not a setback. Some nervous systems need more direct support to relearn regulation. On my website, I walk you through how brain mapping and neuroregulation works. I show you how we at Dr. Trish Leigh and Company use them to help the nervous system move out of constant alert and back into safety mode. And of course, here we're talking about no pressure, so there's no pressure to decide anything right now. I want you to understand about brain states and your brain state clearly so you're not guessing and you're not trying to force change. If and when you're ready, please go over to drtrishleigh.com so you can learn more. You can just start with information. Clarity is often the first step toward regulation. Erectile dysfunction is not a sign that desire is gone or that something is broken. SAD is not a personality flaw. Both are signals that the nervous system is prioritizing safety over arousal response. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about letting your nervous system come back online to the self that you always have been so you can create the life that you want and deserve. Sexual response doesn't return because you try harder. It returns because the brain stops bracing. That's why arousal stops working under pressure. And that is the very reason why regulation brings it back. Sexual function is not about performance. It's about brain regulation. Okay, until next time, control your brain or it will control you. I'll see you then.